The night sky glowed orange over Maple Ridge, the kind of glow that meant trouble. I sprinted out barefoot, heart pounding, as the heat hit my face. My orchard was burning. Rows of apple trees, the work of my father's hands and my own, crackled in flames. And standing at the end of the dirt road was Karen Lutz, the HOA president, holding a flashlight and a clipboard like she owned the world. "You were told to remove those trees," she yelled over the roar. "They're not HOA approved." I stared in disbelief. "You burned them during a fire ban," she smirked, tucking the clipboard under her arm. "We didn't burn anything. We cleared dry hazards. You'll thank us later." That line burned worse than the fire itself. My orchard was outside the HOA's jurisdiction, my private land. But they'd always hated that. I wouldn't pay their fees, wouldn't cut down what my dad planted. So they took matters into their own hands. The fire trucks came too late. By morning, it was all ash and twisted metal. My land looked dead. Karen's smug grin that day stayed in my head for weeks. Until the wind changed. 2 weeks later, the same Santa Ana winds that had fed the fire rolled back through town, only this time, blowing the embers back toward the ridge. Karen was hosting a neighborhood meeting when it started, people sipping wine, laughing on their decks overlooking my land. Then came the smell of smoke. Then the screaming. By the time fire crews arrived, 4 HOA mansions worth over $5 million were blazing. Their fancy cedar decks burned first, dry wood, oiled for shine, perfect fuel. The flames didn't spread from my orchard, they returned to it, following the same wind path that Karen had ignored in her safety report. Standing at the fence line, I watched the scene unfold. Not with joy, but with a cold sense of justice. Karen stumbled toward me, hair wild, ash streaked down her face. You have to help us," she shouted. I met her eyes. "You burned my home, Karen. The fire just came home to you." She tried to speak, but the sirens drowned her out. The investigators would later find gas residue near my orchard fence. HOA issued equipment. Insurance refused to cover intentional acts. The HOA dissolved within a month. And as the sun rose over the blackened hill, a single green sprout pushed through the ash on my land. Life came back where it belonged, and for once, the fire had burned in the right direction. Fire, they lit the match, but the wind wrote the justice. Karen's mansion sat like a skeleton on the hill, charred beams, melted glass, and that same smug mailbox that once carried her endless violation notices. 2 months had passed since the fire, but Maple Ridge still smelled like smoke and guilt. Most HOA members had packed up and left. Only Karen stayed, now living in a trailer on what used to be her perfect lawn. I drove by every day on my way to town. Not to taunt her, just to remind myself that karma doesn't forget addresses. One morning, as I passed, she flagged me down. Her hair was cut short now, face pale, eyes tired. "You got what you wanted," she muttered. Happy. I stepped out of the truck, calm as ever. "What I wanted was peace." "You burned that first." She clenched her jaw. "The fire investigators said the wind pattern was the same one I warned you about." I interrupted. "Yeah, they told me." Karen went quiet. For the first time, there was no arrogance, just fear. I could lose everything," she whispered. "You already did," I said. "But maybe now you'll understand what you took from others." That night, she came to my property again, but this time, without a clipboard. She walked slowly through the blackened orchard, tracing her fingers along the young apple saplings I'd replanted. "These will grow again?" she asked softly. "Yeah," I said. "They always do. Fire can destroy, but it also cleans the ground for better roots." She looked up, guilt heavy in her eyes. "Maybe that's what happened to me." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The next week, I got a letter in the mail. Not from the HOA, from the county office. Inside was a deed transfer. Karen had signed her property over to the reforestation program I'd started, anonymously. No press, no apologies. Just quiet redemption. When spring came, the first blossoms bloomed over both lands, hers and mine, side by side again. Not because she deserved forgiveness, but because the land did. Seedling, some fires burn homes. Others burn pride. Both make room for something stronger. Months later, wildflowers covered the ashes where Karen's mansion once stood. Nobody in Maple Ridge spoke about the fire anymore, except when they looked at the new orchard sign that read, "Maple Ridge Renewal Project, land donated by K. Turner." Karen never came to the meetings, never asked for thanks. But every morning, someone saw her watering the young trees along the border. She didn't own the land anymore, yet she finally belonged there. Fire took everything she had, but gave her back her soul.